Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna start a new series, What If Kid Naruto Was the Strongest Anbu, Part 1. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Naruto, how do you feel? A boy who couldn't have been older than 8 kept his eyes down and tried not to look at the Sandaime Hokage. He had seen them like this before, serious and old, tired and fading. Naruto hated how old the Hokage was, or at least how old he was getting. The old man had always been old, but each time he lost something or someone died, he seemed to slouch lower and groan louder. The boy or girl didn't know how much more the old man could take. "And fine, Jai-chan," he said, and he looked at his grandfather with a smile that was all but blood. "You don't have to worry about me." Naruto turned away and looked down at his book, trying to ignore the tears in his eyes. "I understand," he said in a whisper. "Not everyone comes home." Tora was a proud ANBU member. He was one of Konoha's best and brightest, and he did his job until the end. Naruto felt the old man sit down next to him, his joints cracking as he did so. If it weren't for him, the rest of his team would have died with him. As captain, he gave his life to save his team members. He is a hero. Naruto tensed up and whispered, "But nobody knows." "Naruto, take a look outside, Jai-chan. Everything is fine, and no one knows about Tora Nyai. Such is the life of a shinobi, of an ANBU member. Shinobi are strong people. Sometimes our sacrifices don't come with praise or even recognition. But those aren't the reasons we fight. We take on the worst of this world and fight against it so we can protect the people we love. Your Tora Nyai and every Konoha shinobi who died before him gave their lives for the safety of our people, of our village. Just like my parents," the boy said, with tears running down his face. "And Shisui Nyai, Mary ni, Sora Nyai, Lila ni." The Hokage put a gentle hand on Naruto's head and said, "This is a lesson you've learned far too early, my boy. When I'm older, I'll do my part, too." Naruto looked at the Hokage as he wiped away his tears. "I'll get strong and protect everyone," he said softly. "I don't want to feel like this again. I'll get so strong that I won't feel like this again. We should all try to get strong to protect, but you're too young to take on such a responsibility. Try not to grow up too fast, Naruto. One of the best things about peacetime is that kids can be kids. Don't spend so much time in the barracks. You're old enough to go outside by yourself now. Meet some other kids your age and make some friends who aren't ANBU." Naruto smiled softly, and his tears stopped falling. "I'll try, Jai-chan." He nodded, but his eyes were still furrowed. "That's all I want. Now go read your book in peace." Naruto nodded in response and bit his lip. "Thank you, Jai-chan. Naruto, never forget that I'm proud of you. The ANBU Chibai, the boy who lives in Konoha, our little piece of fish." Naruto Uzumaki had a lot of names and a lot of older siblings. He was everyone's little brother because he was the only child who had grown up in the ANBU barracks his whole life. The first word he said was Kaka, and the second was Nyai. Ryu helped him take his first steps, and he also made him get his first haircut. His nursery, a small room in the middle of the ANBU living quarters, became one of the busiest places in the whole barracks. Nearly every ANBU member went to see the boy for one reason or another, whether it was to watch him laugh while giving him a bubble bath or to change his diaper as a punishment. Even though the boy had never known his parents, he had the biggest family in Konoha. He was as happy as could be. When his siblings came back, he jumped into their arms with joy, not caring that their armor was dirty or sometimes bloody, laughing hysterically as he was passed from one brother to another sister like a ball with too much energy. Sarutobi Hiruzen was so happy that he knew he'd made the right choice. There were only two options: leave Naruto at the orphanage to take care of himself or let him grow up with the best trained assassins in the elemental nations. The Hokage took a long time to decide what would happen to the child, but Danzo's mistake left him with few options. The rumor started to spread that the Yondaime Hokage had sealed the Kyuubi into a baby, and as much as Hiruzen loved his people, he didn't believe in their goodness or intelligence when it came to anger and revenge. The ANBU would raise Naruto in secret, away from the village. After a few years, the rumors would stop, and the boy would be accepted back into the village as the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. The right choice was made. Even though ANBU members gave a 5-year-old boy a real Tanto and explosive tags as a birthday present, Naruto grew up to be a well-behaved, disciplined, and smart boy with the right kind of guidance. He was an honorary member, even though he knew the code and hand signals well. Last year, ANBU Commander Ryu gave him a dog mask and a miniature ANBU uniform. Since Naruto was born, the ANBU barracks have been full of squeals and laughter, real happiness that hadn't been seen since the village was first built. The only bad thing was that Naruto had already lost a lot of his siblings. He'll be okay, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen looked at Inu and said, yes, he will be. He is his parents' child, but this is not good. Of all people, Kakashi, you should know this. I do, but there isn't anything better. Remember that Naruto doesn't have the same mental strength as you, and that you are all his family. When Tora died, you lost a friend, but he lost a big brother. Kakashi looked down at his little brother, who looked like a tiny version of his old sensei. He said, things will change soon. You were right, Hokage-sama. The rumors of a Kyuubi Jinchuriki are almost gone, and no one will even look at him. Nico had brought him to the park to play many times, but nothing had happened. In a few more years, he'll be a genin and get his father's name. The old man stopped and asked, did he make any friends at the park? No, Kakashi laughed. Unfortunately, Naruto has never met other kids his age before, so he was a little nervous. He mostly pushed himself on the swings, and I had to stop Nico from going to push him herself. The Hokage smiled at the thought, but I'm sure that he will find some friends sooner or later. I sure hope so. The Sandaime watched Naruto read his newest book through his crystal ball. Naruto's short legs moved as he sat in his chair, showing that he was already feeling like himself again. That book he is reading, the Hokage said, have you seen it? No, Hokage-sama. The Fundamentals of Fuinjutsu, Volume 2. The old man smiled. He finished the first one in a week. I had Commander Ryu check to see if he understood anything, and he was happy to report that Naruto took to Fuinjutsu like a fish to water. He is as talented as his mother. Kakashi nodded. Did Jiraiya-sama send him those books? Yes, he did. He has a whole list of books for the boy to read planned out. Only on Fuinjutsu, for now, but watch out for some of my students' more passionate writings. Kakashi held in a chuckle. I'm sure Jiraiya-sama will wait until Naruto is a genin before showing him those books. The ANBU captain glanced at Naruto, but if he really is as talented as Kushina-sensei, would you have him focus on a career in the Sealing Corp? He's shown promise in ninjutsu as well. Basically everybody has been teaching him things under the table, so I'm sure he will do well in the regular forces as well. When the time comes, we'll let him decide, but Minato has shown that he can be both a seal master and a top jonin. Kakashi nodded. I'm looking forward to it very much. As do I, my boy. Naruto used to go to the park once a week, but now he went more than once a day. His worried family was glad that he was finally getting used to leaving the barracks. He'd only seen a small part of Konoha, but his time in the sun had finally given him some color to his pale cheeks. Some in the ANBU had made the connection, but no one was brave enough to say so. One look at the close relationship between the always cold and ruthless Kakashi and the always giggling Naruto, their actual brotherly bond, was enough to keep quiet. Sharing and no Kakashi was very interested in keeping his late sensei's only son safe, and he had made it clear that the boy would be his own student when the time came. Walking into the park, Kakashi held onto Naruto's hood. The boy had refused to hold hands with his siblings for a few months already, much to the heartbreak of some of his siblings, and he marveled at the similarity between the Naruto and his father. Perhaps they were being a bit too cavalier. Naruto even dressed like his father did as a child. Jiraiya had sent Naruto a white hoodie that looked identical to the one his father had worn on the daily. Naruto looked so much like his father that Kakashi could almost see Kushina beating Minato-sensei in heaven because his genes were being unfairly dominant. Kakaniai, Naruto said in a voice that was almost whiny. You don't need to babysit me anymore. Yugani just drops me off at the park. You don't need to be so close to me. For once, Kakashi wasn't wearing his ANBU clothes, and his face was only half covered by a cloth mask. He smiled at his brother and said, fine, I'll leave you alone. Just let me know when you're done playing. He ruffled the boy's spiky hair and said, try to make some friends today. Cute girls are playing on the swings, so go join them. Just go, Kakaniai. I'm not a little kid. Naruto told his brother as he pushed away his hand. Chuckling again, Kakashi jumped away. Sure, you're not, Chibai. When spring came around again, there were a lot of kids in the parks. It was a sunny Saturday with a light breeze blowing through the trees. Even the strictest parents couldn't keep their kids from enjoying such a nice day in the sun. Dozens of kids were in this one park, and hundreds more were in the big field and green clearing that surrounded it. When Naruto looked around, he saw many picnic blankets on the grassy field, and each one had a family eating lunch on it. It was a strange feeling, like he was missing something he'd never had. The boy had never met his father, but he often wondered what it would have been like to ride on his shoulders. He'd never met his mother, but he often wondered what her food would taste like. He shook his head and ran away. He didn't think he was too far from the hero's memorial, since he'd been there before. But even at the age of 8, he knew it wasn't right to honor his heroes without a gift. He kept running, away from the crowds and deeper into the trees. The canopies grew thicker and blocked most of the noon sun, and the loud sattering noise was replaced by the steady buzzing of cicadas. He ran faster, enjoying the warm wind on his skin as he sped through the forest, his strides getting wider and his leaps farther. Finally, he felt better. Naruto could feel everything around him when he closed his eyes. His Jai-chan had told him that he had a skill called sensory, which was the ability to sense the presence of others by their chakra. His father also had this skill, and even though it wasn't very special, Naruto was happy to share it with him because it was useful. He smiled and his blue eyes popped open. He'd found some. There we go, he said softly to himself as he jumped to a small clearing. Flowers. It was a rainbow on land in a field of flowers. Wow, there are so many different kinds, he said, biting his lip and rubbing the back of his head. How am I supposed to choose? Suddenly, he felt a presence in front of him. It was a small chakra signature, smaller than his own and much smaller than those of his siblings. It was soft and delicate, like the flowers around him, and it had a purple tint. He looked in the direction he felt, but all he could see was a field of golden flowers blowing in the wind, except for a small bunch of golden hair that stood up against the wind. It was a small girl, probably around his age. She had shoulder-length golden hair that matched the golden flowers around her, but it was a much lighter shade than his own. It looked soft and silky, unlike his spiky mess, and was held away from her face by a small blue hair clip. She was also wearing a yellow sweater that almost blended in with the flowers, and she looked like she was floating in the wind. Naruto looked at her for a while, until he realized he was doing it. He smiled awkwardly and waved his hand. Hi, she said, her voice soft in the wind. What are you? Naruto was mesmerized by her. He cautiously walked toward her, making sure not to step on any flowers. She was looking at him, and as he got closer, he saw that she had blue eyes, too, but they were lighter than his. She was holding her hair away from her face because her hair clip wasn't strong enough to fight the wind. And he finally saw her clearly. Many of his siblings had called him cute, but Naruto had never seen anyone look so cute before. Sorry, he managed to whisper over the wind, but I couldn't hear you before. What did you want to say? The girl looked at him and tilted her head. I asked, what are you doing here? Naruto stuttered, taking his eyes off of her soft gaze. I was looking for some flowers. She gave him a big smile, which broke his heart. Well, you found the best place for that, she said. The Yamanaka clan owns this field and the one next to it. You might already know about our flower shop in town. All of our flowers are grown here. Oh, he said, looking back into her eyes. And sorry, I didn't mean to break the law. I was running through the woods and must have missed a sign or something. Still smiling like the sun, she told him, don't worry about it. When he looked at her, he couldn't breathe, his fingers tingled, his heart beat fast, and the sun had never felt hotter on his face. He saw her lips move, but he couldn't understand what she was saying. Sorry, can you say again? He asked, grinning nervously. You're funny. She laughed. He lost feeling in his legs. I asked him what he was looking for. Is this something for your mom? No, he said, this isn't for me. It's for my brother. Toranyai's silly laugh and warm hugs brought him back to the real world. Suddenly, the warm day felt a bit cooler. Naruto looked at her with a smile on his face and said, I'm looking for some lilies. Lilies. Her smile grew, and he felt warmer right away. We have some here. She motioned for him to follow her, and as she skipped and hopped over the flower beds, he thought it was the cutest thing he'd ever seen. As he followed her closely, he noticed that she was small, at least a few inches shorter than him. She might have been a bit younger than him, but she was the first person he'd ever talked to who was smaller than him. Lilies are an odd choice, though. They were getting close to the tree line, where the wind was calmer and her voice was now clear and sharp. They can mean innocence or purity, or even a new start. Is it for your older brother or your younger brother? Big sibling, really? She asked, what's going on? They stopped at another flower bed, and when she looked back at him, he couldn't stop his sad smile. There's no reason, he said, but I read that it's the most common flower for funerals. Oh, he said, I'm sorry. Her smile was gone, and he felt worse. He tried to smile, hoping to get her interest back. Don't be, he said. You had no idea. She smiled at him with her hands behind her back and said, but here we are. We have a few different kinds, but this one is the golden rayed lily, or Lilium auratum. I think it's the most beautiful lily, and it grows naturally here in Hai no Kuni. She gently plucked 3 stems from the plant and held them close. They were big, beautiful flowers with wide, long white petals that were flecked with gold. They smelled very sweet. I'm sure your brother will love them. She gave them to him with care, and he took them with trembling hands. Thank you. Oh, right, my name is Yamanaka Ino, she said with a giggle. He replied, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I use the last name Jai-chan told me to use. Hello, Ino-chan. It's nice to meet you. Chan, she asked with a sly smile, and you're already calling me by my first name. Sorry, Yamanaka-san. Naruto stuttered as she laughed. I figured you were younger than me and thought. Well, I don't really know what to say. It's okay, you can call me Ino-chan, she said with a laugh. Everyone calls me Ino-chan. But I'm only 8 years old, he said with a shy smile as he rubbed the back of his head. What's your age? Oh, I'm also 8, she said. Really? He nodded and said, yes, you are a lot taller than me. He kept rubbing the back of his head and saying, I guess. Well, are you going to give them back now? She asked with a smile. Oh yeah, I'll do it, he said loudly, making her laugh again. Please thank Ino-chan. I'll have my sister pay you back at your flower shop. No way, said Ino. Don't worry about it. I can't do that, she said. Nope. Naruto, how do you feel? A boy who couldn't have been older than 8 kept his eyes down and tried not to look at the Sandaime Hokage. He had seen them like this before, serious and old, tired and fading. Naruto hated how old the Hokage was, or at least how old he was getting. The old man had always been old, but each time he lost something or someone died, he seemed to slouch lower and groan louder. The boy or girl didn't know how much more the old man could take. I'm fine, Jai-chan, he said, and he looked at his grandfather with a smile that was all but blood. You don't have to worry about me. Naruto turned away and looked down at his book, trying to ignore the tears in his eyes. I understand, he said in a whisper. Not everyone comes home. Tora was a proud ANBU member. He was one of Konoha's best and brightest, and he did his job until the end. Naruto felt the old man sit down next to him, his joints cracking as he did so. If it weren't for him, the rest of his team would have died with him. As captain, he gave his life to save his team members. He is a hero. Naruto tensed up and whispered, but nobody knows. Naruto, take a look outside, Jai-chan. Everything is fine, and no one knows about Tora Niai. Such is the life of a shinobi, of an ANBU member. Shinobi are strong people. Sometimes our sacrifices don't come with praise or even recognition. But those aren't the reasons we fight. We take on the worst of this world and fight against it so we can protect the people we love. Your Tora Niai and every Konoha shinobi who died before him gave their lives for the safety of our people, of our village. Just like my parents, the boy said, with tears running down his face. And Shisui Niai, Mary ni, Sora Niai, Lila ni. The Hokage put a gentle hand on Naruto's head and said, this is a lesson you've learned far too early, my boy. When I'm older, I'll do my part, too. Naruto looked at the Hokage as he wiped away his tears. I'll get strong and protect everyone, he said softly. I don't want to feel like this again. I'll get so strong that I won't feel like this again. We should all try to get strong to protect, but you're too young to take on such a responsibility. Try not to grow up too fast, Naruto. One of the best things about peacetime is that kids can be kids. Don't spend so much time in the barracks. You're old enough to go outside by yourself now. Meet some other kids your age and make some friends who aren't ANBU. Naruto smiled softly, and his tears stopped falling. I'll try, Jai-chan. He nodded, but his eyes were still furrowed. That's all I want. Now go read your book in peace. Naruto nodded in response and bit his lip. Thank you, Jai-chan. Naruto, never forget that I'm proud of you. The Anbu Chibai, the boy who lives in Konoha, our little piece of fish. Naruto Uzumaki had a lot of names and a lot of older siblings. He was everyone's little brother because he was the only child who had grown up in the ANBU barracks his whole life. The first word he said was Kaka, and the second was Niai. Ryu helped him take his first steps, and he also made him get his first haircut. His nursery, a small room in the middle of the ANBU living quarters, became one of the busiest places in the whole barracks. Nearly every ANBU member went to see the boy for one reason or another, whether it was to watch him laugh while giving him a bubble bath or to change his diaper as a punishment. Even though the boy had never known his parents, he had the biggest family in Konoha. He was as happy as could be. When his siblings came back, he jumped into their arms with joy, not caring that their armor was dirty or sometimes bloody, laughing hysterically as he was passed from one brother to another sister like a ball with too much energy. Sarutobi Hiruzen was so happy that he knew he'd made the right choice. There were only two options: leave Naruto at the orphanage to take care of himself or let him grow up with the best trained assassins in the elemental nations. The Hokage took a long time to decide what would happen to the child, but Danzo's mistake left him with few options. The rumor started to spread that the Yondaime Hokage had sealed the Kyuubi into a baby, and as much as Hiruzen loved his people, he didn't believe in their goodness or intelligence when it came to anger and revenge. The Anbu would raise Naruto in secret, away from the village. After a few years, the rumors would stop, and the boy would be accepted back into the village as the son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. The right choice was made. Even though ANBU members gave a 5-year-old boy a real Tanto and explosive tags as a birthday present, Naruto grew up to be a well-behaved, disciplined, and smart boy with the right kind of guidance. He was an honorary member, even though he knew the code and hand signals well. Last year, ANBU Commander Ryu gave him a dog mask and a miniature ANBU uniform. Since Naruto was born, the ANBU barracks have been full of squeals and laughter, real happiness that hadn't been seen since the village was first built. The only bad thing was that Naruto had already lost a lot of his siblings. He'll be okay, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen looked at Inu and said, yes, he will be. He is his parents' child, but this is not good. Of all people, Kakashi, you should know this. I do, but there isn't anything better. Remember that Naruto doesn't have the same mental strength as you, and that you are all his family. When Tora died, you lost a friend, but he lost a big brother. Kakashi looked down at his little brother, who looked like a tiny version of his old sensei. He said, things will change soon. You were right, Hokage-sama. The rumors of a Kyuubi Jinchuriki are almost gone, and no one will even look at him. Nico had brought him to the park to play many times, but nothing had happened. In a few more years, he'll be a genin and get his father's name. The old man stopped and asked, did he make any friends at the park? No, Kakashi laughed. Unfortunately, Naruto has never met other kids his age before, so he was a little nervous. He mostly pushed himself on the swings, and I had to stop Nico from going to push him herself. The Hokage smiled at the thought, but I'm sure that he will find some friends sooner or later. I sure hope so. The Sandaime watched Naruto read his newest book through his crystal ball. Naruto's short legs moved as he sat in his chair, showing that he was already feeling like himself again. That book he is reading, the Hokage said, have you seen it? No, Hokage-sama. The Fundamentals of Fuinjutsu, Volume 2. The old man smiled. He finished the first one in a week. I had Commander Ryu check to see if he understood anything, and he was happy to report that Naruto took to Fuinjutsu like a fish to water. He is as talented as his mother. Kakashi nodded. Did Jiraiya-sama send him those books? Yes, he did. He has a whole list of books for the boy to read planned out. Only on Fuinjutsu, for now, but watch out for some of my students' more passionate writings. Kakashi held in a chuckle. I'm sure Jiraiya-sama will wait until Naruto is a genin before showing him those books. The ANBU captain glanced at Naruto, but if he really is as talented as Kushina-sensei, would you have him focus on a career in the Sealing Corps? He's shown promise in ninjutsu as well. Basically everybody has been teaching him things under the table, so I'm sure he will do well in the regular forces as well. When the time comes, we'll let him decide, but Minato has shown that he can be both a seal master and a top jonin. Kakashi nodded. I'm looking forward to it very much. As do I, my boy. Naruto used to go to the park once a week, but now he went more than once a day. His worried family was glad that he was finally getting used to leaving the barracks. He'd only seen a small part of Konoha, but his time in the sun had finally given him some color to his pale cheeks. Some in the ANBU had made the connection, but no one was brave enough to say so. One look at the close relationship between the always cold and ruthless Kakashi and the always giggling Naruto, their actual brotherly bond, was enough to keep quiet. Sharing and no Kakashi was very interested in keeping his late sensei's only son safe, and he had made it clear that the boy would be his own student when the time came. Walking into the park, Kakashi held onto Naruto's hood. The boy had refused to hold hands with his siblings for a few months already, much to the heartbreak of some of his siblings, and he marveled at the similarity between the Naruto and his father. Perhaps they were being a bit too cavalier. Naruto even dressed like his father did as a child. Jiraiya had sent Naruto a white hoodie that looked identical to the one his father had worn on the daily. Naruto looked so much like his father that Kakashi could almost see Kushina beating Minato-sensei in heaven because his genes were being unfairly dominant. Kakanei, Naruto said in a voice that was almost whiny. You don't need to babysit me anymore. Yugoni just drops me off at the park. You don't need to be so close to me. For once, Kakashi wasn't wearing his Anbu clothes, and his face was only half covered by a cloth mask. He smiled at his brother and said, "Fine, I'll leave you alone. Just let me know when you're done playing." He ruffled the boy's spiky hair and said, "Try to make some friends today. Cute girls are playing on the swings, so go join them. Just go, Kakanei. I'm not a little kid," Naruto told his brother as he pushed away his hand. Chuckling again, Kakashi jumped away. "Sure, you're not, Chibai." When spring came around again, there were a lot of kids in the parks. It was a sunny Saturday with a light breeze blowing through the trees. Even the strictest parents couldn't keep their kids from enjoying such a nice day in the sun. Dozens of kids were in this one park, and hundreds more were in the big field and green clearing that surrounded it. When Naruto looked around, he saw many picnic blankets on the grassy field, and each one had a family eating lunch on it. It was a strange feeling, like he was missing something he'd never had. The boy had never met his father, but he often wondered what it would have been like to ride on his shoulders. He'd never met his mother, but he often wondered what her food would taste like. He shook his head and ran away. He didn't think he was too far from the hero's memorial, since he'd been there before. But even at the age of 8, he knew it wasn't right to honor his heroes without a gift. He kept running, away from the crowds and deeper into the trees. The canopies grew thicker and blocked most of the noon sun, and the loud Saturday noise was replaced by the steady buzzing of cicadas. He ran faster, enjoying the warm wind on his skin as he sped through the forest, his strides getting wider and his leaps farther. Finally, he felt better. Naruto could feel everything around him when he closed his eyes. His Jai-chan had told him that he had a skill called sensory, which was the ability to sense the presence of others by their chakra. His father also had this skill, and even though it wasn't very special, Naruto was happy to share it with him because it was useful. He smiled and his blue eyes popped open. He'd found some. "There we go," he said softly to himself as he jumped to a small clearing. Flowers. It was a rainbow on land in a field of flowers. "Wow, there are so many different kinds," he said, biting his lip and rubbing the back of his head. "How am I supposed to choose?" Suddenly, he felt a presence in front of him. It was a small chakra signature, smaller than his own and much smaller than those of his siblings. It was soft and delicate, like the flowers around him, and it had a purple tint. He looked in the direction he felt, but all he could see was a field of golden flowers blowing in the wind, except for a small bunch of golden hair that stood up against the wind. It was a small girl, probably around his age. She had shoulder-length golden hair that matched the golden flowers around her, but it was a much lighter shade than his own. It looked soft and silky, unlike his spiky mess, and was held away from her face by a small blue hair clip. She was also wearing a yellow sweater that almost blended in with the flowers, and she looked like she was floating in the wind. Naruto looked at her for a while, until he realized he was doing it. He smiled awkwardly and waved his hand. Hi, she said, her voice soft in the wind. "What are you?" Naruto was mesmerized by her. He cautiously walked toward her, making sure not to step on any flowers. She was looking at him, and as he got closer, he saw that she had blue eyes, too, but they were lighter than his. She was holding her hair away from her face because her hair clip wasn't strong enough to fight the wind. And he finally saw her clearly. Many of his siblings had called him cute, but Naruto had never seen anyone look so cute before. "Sorry," he managed to whisper over the wind, "but I couldn't hear you before. What did you want to say?" The girl looked at him and tilted her head. "I asked, what are you doing here?" Naruto stuttered, taking his eyes off of her soft gaze. "I was looking for some flowers." She gave him a big smile, which broke his heart. "Well, you found the best place for that," she said. "The Yamanaka clan owns this field and the one next to it. You might already know about our flower shop in town. All of our flowers are grown here." "Oh," he said, looking back into her eyes. "And sorry, I didn't mean to break the law. I was running through the woods and must have missed a sign or something." Still smiling like the sun, she told him, "Don't worry about it." When he looked at her, he couldn't breathe, his fingers tingled, his heart beat fast, and the sun had never felt hotter on his face. He saw her lips move, but he couldn't understand what she was saying. Sorry, can you say again?" he asked, grinning nervously. "You're funny." She laughed. He lost feeling in his legs. I asked him what he was looking for. "Is this something for your mom?" "No," he said, "this isn't for me. It's for my brother." Toriyama's silly laugh and warm hugs brought him back to the real world. Suddenly, the warm day felt a bit cooler. Naruto looked at her with a smile on his face and said, "I'm looking for some lilies." "Lilies?" Her smile grew, and he felt warmer right away. "We have some here." She motioned for him to follow her, and as she skipped and hopped over the flower beds, he thought it was the cutest thing he'd ever seen. As he followed her closely, he noticed that she was small, at least a few inches shorter than him. She might have been a bit younger than him, but she was the first person he'd ever talked to who was smaller than him. Lilies are an odd choice, though. They were getting close to the tree line, where the wind was calmer and her voice was now clear and sharp. They can mean innocence or purity, or even a new start. Is it for your older brother or your younger brother? Big sibling, really? She asked, what's going on? They stopped at another flower bed, and when she looked back at him, he couldn't stop his sad smile. There's no reason, he said, but I read that it's the most common flower for funerals. Oh, he said, I'm sorry. Her smile was gone, and he felt worse. He tried to smile, hoping to get her interest back. Don't be, he said. You had no idea. She smiled at him with her hands behind her back and said, but here we are. We have a few different kinds, but this one is the golden rayed lily, or Lilium auratum. I think it's the most beautiful lily, and it grows naturally here in High no Kuni. She gently plucked 3 stems from the plant and held them close. They were big, beautiful flowers with wide, long white petals that were flecked with gold. They smelled very sweet, and sure your brother will love them. She gave them to him with care, and he took them with trembling hands. Thank you. Oh, right, my name is Yamanaka Ino, she said with a giggle. He replied, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I use the last name Jai-chan told me to use. Hello, Ino-chan. It's nice to meet you. Chan, she asked with a sly smile, and you're already calling me by my first name. Sorry, Yamanaka-san, Naruto stuttered as she laughed. I figured you were younger than me and thought ... well, I don't really know what to say. It's okay, you can call me Ino-chan, she said with a laugh. Everyone calls me Ino-chan. But I'm only 8 years old, he said with a shy smile as he rubbed the back of his head. What's your age? Oh, I'm also 8, she said. Really? He nodded and said, yes, you are a lot taller than me. He kept rubbing the back of his head and saying, I guess. Well, are you going to give them back now? She asked with a smile. Oh yeah, I'll do it, he said loudly, making her laugh again. Please thank Ino-chan. I'll have my sister pay you back at your flower shop. No way, said Ino. Don't worry about it. I can't do that, she said. No problem. I actually feed some of these flowers to the animals, so don't worry about it. Naruto shook his head and said, okay, if you're sure. She nodded with a grin, I am. Thank you, Miss Ino-chan. Fine, let's go. She was looking at him expectantly, and he was looking back at her, slowly turning red because of it. Are you coming with me? He asked with doubt. Yep, really. Why? I don't have any other plans for today. My parents took me to the park to play, but none of my friends were there. I came here to kill time by checking on the flowers, but following you seems more fun. Ino stared at him without blinking and said, I don't have to come if you don't want me to. No, he shouted, I mean yes. She laughed, and he wanted to punch himself. I mean, no, I don't mind, and yes, I do want you to come. All right, let's go. It had been a strange day, to say the least, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. Stepping out of the flower field, the 2 children make their way back to the path, walking under the wide canopies back to the park. It felt much farther to Naruto on the way back. For some reason, his hands were shaking, his heart was pounding against his chest, and his face was hot even though they were in the shade. He noticed that he was staring at her again. What's going on? She, too, saw it. Nothing. It's a hot day, so I'm wondering if you're thirsty or something, he managed with a smile. She gave a shrug and said, a little bit, but the water we use for the fields isn't safe to drink. And the water fountain at the park is really gross. Oh, well, then here. Naruto pulled his sleeve up to reveal a small seal marked on his forearm. He could feel Ino staring at him and his face grew hotter, but he ignored it and sent a pulse of chakra into the seal. With a puff of smoke emerged 2 bottles of water. Glad he didn't mess up on his chakra control. He could have accidentally summoned the entire dozen he sealed into the mark. He happily handed one over to Ino. Here it is. How did you do that? She grabbed his arm, which made him blush again. I've never seen anything like that before, he said, looking at his seal with confusion. Did you use chakra? Can you use chakra already? I can hardly get that dumb leaf to float. That was a normal storage seal, but instead of writing it on a scroll, I wrote it in ink on my arm. It can't hold as much as even a small scroll, but it's better than a backpack. She just stared at him, her eyes so bright that he had to look away. Just your typical shuriken and kunai. Pulling up further, he showed another mark. This one I haven't really used, but it's a first aid kit. My Jai-chan always tells me to bring it along just in case. Wow, where did you learn that? He smiled shyly and said, my godfather sent me a few books on Fuinjutsu, which is how I learned. It's kind of cool and helpful. I used to hate carrying my backpack everywhere, especially when it was hot like today. But now I don't feel any heavier and can carry even more. That's very helpful. Can you show me what to do? Of course, he smiled. I didn't bring my ink and brush with me today, but I will next time. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto cursed the sun because it was making his face hurt. Why thank you, Ino-chan. If it hadn't been for the sudden loud noises, neither Naruto nor Ino would have noticed they were already back in the park. For once, Naruto's senses failed him because he was so focused on his new friend. They walked through the park, just two kids among hundreds, and headed for the Heroes Memorial. Why haven't I seen you before at the academy? Naruto tilted his head and said, I'm not enrolled at the academy. Huh? But you do know how to use chakra. You don't want to be a ninja, do you? He smiled and said, I do, but right now I'm learning at home. My Jai-chan teaches me the bookwork they teach at the academy, and my other siblings teach me the rest. What about your mom and dad? Naruto smiled again, but this time it was sad, and he saw Ino move away. No, my parents died when the Kyuubi attacked, he said. We live together with Jai-chan. I'm sorry, Ino said with her head down. I won't ask so many questions anymore. Don't worry. He gave her a real smile and said, ask me anything you want. I have never even talked to someone my age before. It's great. Don't you have friends our age? Sorry, another dumb question. Ino smacked herself on the head. He laughed and said, I come to the park sometimes, but I don't really know how to talk to people my age. I can understand you just fine. I know, he said with a smile. It's great. Ino finally smiled again and said, well, if you're ever at the park, come find me. Most of the time, I'm here on weekends. Okay, the Heroes Memorial was in sight. It was a huge dugout area, at least the size of an ANBU training arena, and it was sunken into the ground. Statues and monuments were built around the edges of the ceremonial ground, each showing the great deeds of the fallen heroes of Konoha. Naruto's siblings told him that this dugout area was the result of one of the Shodai Hokage's punches. Naruto didn't know if the story was true, but he decided to believe it anyway. When Naruto got there, he saw that the ground was covered with the graves of many heroes who had died. In the middle of the field was a monument to the Will of Fire, and that's where he went. As he looked around and saw that only a few people were paying their respects, he thought back to his conversation with the Hokage. It was just a normal day for normal people, and no one knew how far his brother had gone to protect the village. As Naruto walked toward the cold fire, Ino stood back. Naruto whispered as he put the flowers on the marble base, these are for you, Tora Nai. I hope you like them. He stopped and looked at the monument. I really miss you. He bowed low, hand at his side. Thank you for protecting our home and our family. My family. He looked to the sky, trying not to cry. I'll take care of everyone so that nobody else has to. I promise, Tora Nai. To dried his eyes and smiled at Ino as he turned back to her. Are you okay? She asked softly, holding his sleeve with a light touch. He looked her in the eyes and said, thank you for coming here with me. She said, yes, I feel much better now. She shook her head and said, don't worry about it. Naruto thought that when Ino looked at the pyre and bowed, she was saying a silent prayer. He turned to the pyre and bowed with her, and then they both turned away and walked back the way they came. I've never been there before, Ino said as they climbed the steps to leave the memorial. I've passed by, but I've never been in there. I hope you never have to do that again, Ino-chan. They walked in silence, but Naruto didn't feel awkward anymore. A weight had been lifted off his shoulders, and he stood up a little straighter. He knew what he wanted to do in the future, get strong. He had to get stronger than Tora Nai, stronger than Jai-chan, and stronger than every fallen hero in the memorial. If he got strong enough, he could protect everyone by himself, and no one in his family would have to be in danger anymore. Naruto-kun, do you have anything planned for tomorrow? The voice of Ino pulled Naruto out of his thoughts. No, not really, he said. Jai-chan gives me the weekends off, so I don't have to do anything. Well, then, come back to the park tomorrow, said Ino with a smile. I can introduce you to my friends, and you can play with them and me. Really? Naruto asked with a smile of hope. Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. He said, I'll be there, and thank you, Ino-chan. Naruto had seen his siblings get ready for missions for as long as he could remember. At the sound of a dull tone that was almost always the same over the intercom, a certain team would leave their rooms, sometimes wearing nothing but their underwear, and move quickly and quietly toward the armory. The boy had timed them once, and none of them took more than 30 seconds to put on their masks and armor. After that, they would all flash to the arsenal and arm themselves as much as was needed for their mission. Last, the team's captain would take stock of their equipment and resources, and Naruto dreamed of the day he could be like his siblings. He never thought it would happen so quickly. How many bottles of water do you have sealed in your arm? Asked ANBU Commander Ryu, his powerful dragon mask in full snarl. 12, Commander. Naruto didn't care that everyone else was laughing. Have you prepared food rations? Naruto nodded with his back as straight as he could and said, yes, Commander. Standard procedure, enough for 3 days after the mission is done. What weapons from the arsenal do you have? All 20 kunai, 75 shuriken, 25 feet of ninja wire, 10 explosive tags, and 1 tanto were checked this morning and found to be ready for battle. Naruto tapped his forearm and said, I also packed my ink and brush. I may have to help my friend make a storage seal of her own. Very well, said the commander. Do you still have your first aid kit? Yes, sir, Commander, we have everything we need. Naruto could almost feel his sister's excitement as they huddled around him and whispered to each other. Their masks didn't do much to hide how excited they were. Naruto had never seen them act less professional, and it ruined his first debriefing. He tried to hide a pout and kept talking about the commander with his back straight and his eyes ahead. Good, said the commander, and the boy tried not to smile. Well done, Chibai. Thank you, Mr. Commander. The tall man softened his voice and knelt down to talk to Naruto. What kind of snacks did you make for the kids today? I don't know what they like these days. Naruto scratched the back of his head and lost his cool when the subject he knew the least about was brought up. Yugao ni packed me some pudding cups, Nana ni gave me some lollipops, Mizu ni made me some chocolate chip cookies, and Shiki ni gave me some money in case I need to buy more snacks. That sounds like enough, the commander said. However, I am worried that we are dealing with so many unknowns. Make sure to take mental notes as the day goes on. We need more information the next time you have a playdate. Ryu thought for a moment. We are dealing with the heiress of the Yamanaka clan. They are a skilled shinobi family in Konoha and are the best at mind infiltration. Taken into account, Commander. Commander Ryu stood tall again and nodded at the young soldier, saying, when you get back, I want a full report. You're out, Chibai. Finally, they shouted. Naruto was pulled into the arms of his older sisters like he was a rag doll. The boy held his breath as his face was pressed up against their suffocating chests. He turned his head to the left so they would only kiss his right cheek, since his left cheek was still sore from yesterday. He also made sure to tighten his legs as they continued to hug him tightly and throw him from side to side. Even though he tried, he failed. Naruto pushed Yugani's face away as he gasped for air and said, Ni-chan, I can't breathe. The Anbu warrior let go of him and just held him in her arms as she laughed. Sorry, Naru-chan, but you just look so cute. His 4 sisters surrounded him with pats and kisses, all serious and professional while talking about snacks. Mizu asked, did we have to dress him like this, though? What do you mean? Asked Nana. Naru-chan looks so handsome. The 4 women looked at their favorite person, who was wearing black, custom-made shinobi utility pants that went well with the smallest 9th edition black Konoha Anbu urban combat boots ever made, which could absorb shock and keep the feet cool. A custom-fitted dark gray fishnet shirt covered his torso, and it fit well under a new white jacket with a high collar that Jiraiya-sama had sent the boy just a week before. In honor of his family, his jacket had a golden Uzumaki symbol on the back and golden chains on the sleeves. Our little heartbreaker. Nana-ni squeezed his cheeks and kissed his forehead. You're growing up, Naru. You're going on playdates already. I can almost see us doing this again when you go on your first date. Mizu grabbed the boy and held him close to her while wearing her scary viper mask. No, Naru-chan, don't listen to her. You can't date until you're 18, understand? She moved back as Nana tried to get the boy back. And no girl will ever be good enough for my Naru-chan. Relax, Mizu, said the voice that was the most calm of the 4. He's only 8 years old, so it might not happen for at least another 8 years. That gives us plenty of time to check out all the girls his age, give or take 5 years. How old are you, Shiki? Nana shook her head at the older woman. Girls these days are different. They're not like how we were. I've seen that Uchiha boy get chased by every girl in his class, and he's not even half as cute as Naru-chan. As soon as our little Chibai becomes a genin or even goes to the academy, they'll try to get their claws on him. Mizu made it clear that she wanted to kill. They will feel the cold sting of my blade. Yugao crossed her arms and said with a smirk, when Naru-chan grows up, I'm not even worried about the little girls. I'm worried about our new recruits. When will the newbies stop seeing Naru-chan as a little brother and start seeing him as a possible target? Mizu turned to Commander Ryu and said, Commander, I want you to check out all new recruits yourself as soon as Naru-chan hits puberty. Denied. Commander, Chibai has a mission to complete, and the 4 of you need to report to Hokage-sama. I've already given you more than enough time to catch up with Chibai. Even with their masks on, the girls couldn't hide their disappointment. Now go, and don't let me find out you just skimmed your report. I don't mind if you 4 watch over Chibai on his playdate, but while you're on duty, I expect your full professionalism. Hi, Commander, said 4 voices as they finally straightened up. Mizu put Naruto down on the ground and ran her mask through his hair. Have fun today, Naru. Each sister came to give her one last hug. Remember to be nice and polite, but always stand up for yourself if someone tries to bully you. We'll all be watching out for you, so if you're in trouble, let us know, and we'll get rid of the enemy. Naruto laughed at his sister's antics because he was used to them. I'll do that, Ni-chan. Thanks. After everyone squealed and hugged each other, they finally left Naruto alone with the commander. I'm leaving, Commander. Ryu nodded and said, may the will of fire keep you warm on your journey. Chibai. Naruto had never left the barracks on his own, so he felt both strange and excited. When he jumped through the well-hidden gates, he was already in the middle of Konoha, where many people were moving around. Even though it was partly cloudy, yesterday's Saturday was much busier and full of things to do than yesterday's partly cloudy Sunday. However, it was still much more crowded than Naruto was used to. Naruto used the Anbu silent breathing technique to control his breathing and calm his body. Then, for the first time on his own, he walked into the village. Start the mission. Lessons from Kakanyai and Commander Ryu were quickly put to good use. Slip through the shadows of other people to blend into a crowd. Find and keep up with the slowest walker in the area, then work your way up to the fastest, going from one person to the next in a zigzag pattern that is silent and deadly. Soon, Naruto had left the noisy business district around the Anbu barracks and was speeding to the park. He had made this part of the trip many times before, but always during the day. He kept telling himself that today was the same. By following the gusts of wind, Naruto made sure that no one but the Inuzuka and ninja hounds could smell him. He then moved through the shadows of the tall buildings. He counted that he had passed by 127 people almost without thinking. This was a skill and habit that Commander Ryu and Kakanyai had taught him from the time he could count. I avoided 127 possible enemies and am now on my way to the park, he said. Kids' laughter could be heard, which meant the park was close by. Commander Ryu said that Naruto's face when he came out of the shadows was attentive, but relaxed almost to the point of being lazy. He walked into the park with confidence, his eyes slowly taking in all the small details around him and making mental notes of all the possible ways out, in order of how likely they were to work. He was just as much of an ANBU member as he wanted to be. In this state, he couldn't show any emotion or make a sudden move. He could only react in a controlled way. Naruto-kun. In an instant, he couldn't think straight. Take some deep breaths, Ino-chan. He stopped briefly to look at her, his heart accelerating again. This is a simple seal etching. It's not dangerous and you won't feel any sort of discomfort with it. She nodded, breathing in deeply, but still burning red. I'm okay, Naruto-kun. You can continue. He smiled. You're doing great, Ino-chan. He noticed her look away from him, but spoke, you look really cool when you work, Naruto-kun. It was his turn to flinch. Thankfully, the brush was lifted at that second, but his heart was now beating faster than hers. Thank you, he managed, his face burning. No one has ever called me cool before. She was still looking away from him, but her pulse was still accelerating. We can talk more while we do this, he said, once again starting to draw. I've practiced this seal a lot, so I can do this easily. We should keep talking to help us relax. Sure, she whispered back. Your friends, he started as Ino slowly turned to look at him again. Or well, not really your friends anymore. Do you think they'll bother you anymore? Ino shook her head. No, I don't think so. If they did, they'd be here today and yesterday. That's good, he added. What about the girl you mentioned, Sakura-san? She'll be fine, too. I'll be there for her as her friend. He smiled. I guess she is as lucky as I am, huh? She looked away again, her pulse erratic. Why, yep. Just a few moments more and Naruto smiled, ending his drawing with one final stroke. There we go. We're done. Ino turned back and looked at her arm. Almost half of her forearm was covered in his impeccable penmanship. Wow, this really doesn't seem like it's a simple seal. It is once you understand it. He gently brought Ino's arm closer to his mouth and softly blew on the ink, hoping to dry it faster. It may look like a lot, but there are a lot of repeating patterns. It's plenty of drawing, but an easy concept. Ino looked like a tomato, so what's next? This, Naruto formed a Hitsuji hand sign and focused his chakra to his right palm. He held Ino's arm in his left hand as he placed his right on her forearm. With a burst of chakra in his palm, he whispered, Fuin. Ino watched with widened eyes and fascination as the inscriptions on her skin moved in concentric circles, slowly bumping into each other until they overlapped into layers. They spun around Naruto's hand and soon enough it became smaller than his palm, shrinking to the center of her forearm. It took another few seconds before Naruto smiled at her. Technically, this final outer layer of this seal can look like whatever we want, so I figured you'd like this. Naruto lifted his palm and Ino gasped. The seal was finished and she saw her own clan's symbol on her arm. a perfect bush clover barely the size of a coin. Naruto grinned, mine looks like a whirlpool, which is the Uzumaki symbol. I don't think you want that on your arm, so I spent last night perfecting the Yamanaka symbol. It wasn't hard to do since both our clan symbols are perfect circles. I just had no change some small details on the outer layer of the array. He saw her staring at him and he stared back. Do you like it? She gave a small smile. I do, she whispered as her smile grew. I love it. He breathed a sigh of relief, his smile matching hers. That's good. I wasn't sure. She started with a pause. You learned to draw my clan symbol like this just for me. Of course. He grinned. You're the only Yamanaka I know. Ino hugged her arm close to her chest before giving Naruto the most beautiful smile he'd ever seen in his life. Thank you, Naruto-kun. I really love it. You're welcome. He answered loudly and happily. He leaned closer to her and asked for her arm. Taking her shaking hand, he placed it again on his knee, gently running his thumb across the seal. Now, let me teach you how to use it. Throughout his explanation, in his excitement, he never really noticed that Ino was staring at him the entire time. Nor did he feel her pulse skyrocketing to new heights. Naruto's 4 older sisters stared down at the scene, all nursing a gentle smile. They each leaned against their own tree branch and sighed, packing away their equipment. It's settled, muttered Yugao. Naru-chan will be an absolute heartthrob when he grows up. He does it so naturally, added Nana, and he has absolutely no idea. Shiki chuckled with her arms crossed. That's what makes him so dangerous. It all comes from the heart and he is genuinely that sweet. This poor girl stands no chance. I can live with that. Mizu relented. She seems like a good girl to me. Anyone who would stand up to her own friends like that just to protect someone has earned my respect. The others nodded along. And she's Inoichi-san's daughter. She may join our ranks in the future. Yugao smirked. I call dibs on her. Damn it, came 3 voices in unison. The sun had set and Naruto had left. He had promised her to meet with her again next weekend, but that was 5 days and 5 nights away. For Ino, that seemed like years away. She had almost kept him from leaving, but she knew she shouldn't. He mentioned one of his brother would be returning from a mission later tonight, and she would not rob him of that, especially not after she knew about his other brother had died. But he had been so close to her for so long, nearly 6 hours. But it worked out for the best. Without the sun, she had no excuse for her tomato cheeks. She slowly made her way home, knowing that her parents must be expecting her soon. She hoped for some cold evening winds, because she had no excuse for her burning face. No matter how much of Naruto's water she drank, it just wouldn't cool down. Just a few more blocks and she would be home. It was not enough time to calm down. Ino-chan. A small voice broke Ino from her thoughts, and she saw Sakura waiting for her by a bench. Damn it, she thought. Naruto had forever changed benches for her, and once again she felt her heart throb. Sakura. Ino approached the girl, unknowingly still hugging her arm close, feeling the warmth on her new seal. What are you doing here? Do you have time? The girl asked, her pink hair held in place by the red ribbon Ino had given her. Can we talk? Ino shrugged. Sure. What's up? They both sat down on the bench, with Sakura looking down at her folded hands, clearly nervous. Normally, Ino would have been concerned and probably would have inquired. But her mind had been thoroughly consumed by a yellow ball of sunshine and roses. The 2 girls sat there on the bench, both apparently reeling from adolescent challenges. Sakura started to speak, but Ino didn't even hear her. Why did his eyes have to be so blue? Ino had thought the entire day. They were like sapphires, big and round and cute. They were so bright and sparkly that she could barely look into them without burning up. Why did his sun-like hair frame his eyes like a golden crown? Why were his hands so warm? Why was he so handsome? Why did he look so cool? Ino-chan. Naruto was so sweet as well. He stayed up the previous night just to learn how to make her seal look like her clan symbol. The bush clover, which symbolizes positive love. Was this a sign? Were her ancestors pushing her towards Naruto? Ino-chan, are you alright? Did you hear what I said? 5 days and 5 nights. How could she even sleep, much less train and study? Thankfully, if this weekend was any indication, she wouldn't have to deal with her ex-friends anymore. At most she'd have to deal with Shikamaru and Choji. Why did they always have to be in the same class as her? One only knows how to sleep and the other only knows how to eat. Why couldn't Naruto-kun be in her class? That way she could see him every day and not only during weekends. Sakura gently nudged Ino and got a soft groan from the blonde. Did you hear what I said, Ino-chan? Sakura turned to face Ino and spoke with rare confidence. I said that I like Sasuke-kun, too. I really like Sasuke-kun. Are you okay with that? Ino hazily looked at her second newest friend and sighed. Sasuke who? Hade Kakashi had a long day. The copy ninja, who is a well-known ranked shinobi, and the son of the White Fang and a student of the Yellow Flash, had to work as a footman. This was the 5th day in a row that he had done both a delivery and a recon mission. For almost a week, he had been stuck on the same boring main roads for safety. An ANBU captain shouldn't have been traveling with simple merchants and traveling shows while holding a small scroll that no one would want to steal. He had been a trained assassin for a long time, and he had never been so bored. He hadn't used any of his 1000 jutsu in a while, and his hands were getting antsy. As he took off his ANBU mask and put it and everything else in his locker, sparks of electricity flew between his fingers. He was back in his room and could reach his warm, comfortable bed, which was almost too comfortable. It and he were both too soft. He used to sleep on a strong branch instead of the soft dirt because the dirt was too soft. Now, just seeing his bed made him feel tired. Maybe the Hokage was punishing him for something. Or maybe this was the equivalent of a D-ranked mission for the ANBU. How come, since his last mistake, if it could even be called that, it has been a long time. He and his team were caught off guard, and Tenzo was holding the prisoner to keep him safe. It made sense for him to make his team go back while he stayed behind the lines. He had kept his teammates safe and made sure the mission went well. The Hokage had insisted that Kakashi was still willing to help others before himself. He made a mistake. He might have gotten tired of living at one point, but that was before a little ball of sunshine took up all of his free time. Kaka Nii. This ball of sunshine flew at his brother, landed on his shoulders, and grabbed hold of his silver hair. "Welcome back," Kakashi said with a low laugh. "Yes, I'm back." He grabbed the boy's ankles to steady him and asked, "But what are you still doing up? It's almost 11 o'clock. I just finished my report to Commander Ryu," Naruto said with a smile as he jumped up and down on his brother's shoulders. "He said I did a good job. I'm too excited to go to sleep." "I see," said the captain as he made his way to the small cafeteria on the east side of the barracks, where they usually met in the evenings. "How many of your sister's snacks did you eat to celebrate? You are way too active tonight." The boy shrugged and said, "Just a few cookies. I ate most of my snacks with Ino-chan today, so I didn't have much left." He pouted and said, "The commander wouldn't let Nana-ni bake more cookies for tonight." "Ino-chan, did you have fun today?" Kakashi laughed again. "Lots of fun." Naruto smiled brighter than Kakashi had ever seen him smile. "Ino-chan is so cool and smart. She let me draw a storage seal on her arm, and it only took her an hour to learn how to use it. She told me she had just started the leaf floating exercise at the academy, but she was able to shape enough chakra to seal and unseal 10 bottles of water by the end." When the brothers got to the dining area, Kakashi could see that most of his co-workers were still there. Yugao, Nana, Mizu, and Shiki were all sitting together in the middle of the room in front of the TV, and laughing out loud late into the night. Even Tenzo was still awake. He was quietly trimming his prized bonsai tree behind the ladies as he watched the screen with a small smile on his face. Kei sat next to him with his legs on the table and his hands behind his head. He laughed quietly. Even Commander Ryu was there, standing tall and stoic with his arms crossed and his hawk-like eyes looking at the TV. Naruto kept telling his favorite brother every little thing he knew about the Yamanaka heiress. He was so precise and detailed that Kakashi wondered if they had trained him too well. Tenzo said to his captain, "Welcome back, senpai," and then he laughed. "Did you know that Inoichi-san's daughter is the best student in her class?" Kei added with a smile. "Oh, and she's really cool and really likes Nana's chocolate chip cookies." Tenzo sighed and grinned. Ever since he got home, Naruto hasn't stopped talking about his new best friend. Naruto huffed and crossed his arms as he stood on Kakashi's shoulders. "I was just trying to make my report as complete as I could." "Awa, Naru-chan," Yugao said. "Are you sure it's not because you already miss her? You keep talking about how you promised to see her again next week." Naruto's face turned a little red. "Don't worry, we'll let you go see her whenever you want. And next time, we'll make you more snacks since Ino-chan likes sweet things," Commander Ryu said, not to mention that she's the spy master of the academy, and he was dead serious. "This girl knows a lot about most of her classmates, but she hasn't used any of that information to help herself. This shows that she has a good sense of ethics and knows how to use power in moderation. I am very impressed with young Yamanaka-san." People who were used to the commander's personality sweat dropped, but Naruto nodded enthusiastically. "Kakashi-senpai," Shiki said, "you should come take a look at this." Naruto shouted, "Yeah, Ni-chan recorded my mission, and they said I did a good job." Kakashi got on his knees in front of the TV and watched closely with his one good eye. It was clearly shot from a bird's eye view, with the camera pointed down at Naruto and the little Yamanaka girl. The shot was clear and from a good angle. It was also steady, so they must have fixed the camera. The sound was also loud and clear, so they must have been ready and had everything they needed. Naruto hopped down to the ground and said, "I made it to the target destination on time and without leaving a trace." Kakashi watched the screen and saw his little brother come out of the shadows with an expression of indifference, which he had taught him, but then see him lose it when he saw his friend. "Okay, I may have lost focus there, but it didn't cost me the mission." "Awa, did Ino-chan scare you?" Nana asked, pulling her chibai into her arms. "Or was she so pretty that you completely lost focus?" "I was just surprised," Naruto said with a blush. "Do you see how pretty she is?" Yugao asked, looking naive. "No," Shiki asked Naruto, as the screen showed him pulling Ino into the shade. "Why don't you tell Kakashi what happened here?" The boy replied, "Right. The day was unexpectedly hot, and Ino-chan must have been standing in the sun for too long. While we were talking, I noticed that her face was turning red, like very red." His sisters all crossed their arms and nodded wisely. "I realized that it must be a sign of heat stroke." Kakashi choked on his saliva as Tenzo and Kei laughed. "As you can see, I had to run away to a cooler place, and because Ino-chan was hurting, I thought it would be best to hold her hand." "Yes, that was a smart move, Naruto," said Kei very smooth. "Right?" Naruto replied, looking very confused. Kei and Tenzo laughed again as Kakashi looked at Naruto. "I had to hurry, so I held her hand tighter and ran faster." At this point, even her voice was weak, and she started to stutter. "I was very worried, but we made it to the bench on time." "Was her face still red?" Kakashi asked in a serious tone of voice. "Yes," Naruto said, pointing at the TV. "It was getting even redder. She looked like a tomato." Kakashi was really wondering if Minato-sensei's son was attracted to tomato girls because his genes were too strong. At that moment, Kushina must have been smiling down at her son. She told Kakashi many times that she hoped Naruto would find a girl like her. "I put my hand on her forehead to see if she was burning up, and she was. And she kept getting redder." Kakashi just stared at his brother, the girls laughing quietly behind them. "The heat must have hurt her in some way, so I opened a bottle of water for her." Kakashi nodded and went along with them. "But here is where I have to complain." Naruto huffed. "The jacket Jiraiya sent me doesn't stretch." Kakashi watched the screen and saw Naruto take off his jacket in front of the girl, and then show her his arms. "I had to take it off to get the water, which took a few seconds. Luckily, I got the water in time, because Ino-chan looked like she was about to pass out." Kakashi's jaw dropped when he saw his brother lean in close to the girl and feed her water from a bottle. "She was almost unconscious when I tried to give her water. It took a few seconds, but she finally drank some. Thank goodness, because I'm not sure if she would still want to be my friend if she passed out the first time we played together." Kakashi asked Tenzo and Kei, who were laughing, "Why you almost made a girl pass out the first time you played with her?" "No, I didn't," said Naruto. "The heap did. Aren't you listening, Kakaniai? Please, continue." So the boy did, and there was video evidence to back up his story about his first mission. He never once noticed Kakashi's wide-eyed confusion. The ANBU captain looked around at his fellow soldiers, and they all smiled at him. Even the commander was laughing because he had stopped crossing his arms. Everyone knew. They are getting it. They know Naruto has a lot of potential and what this could mean. "Oh, you look so cool, Naruto-kun," Nana exclaimed loudly, smiling at the boy's blush. "Shut up, Nana-ni." He was red-faced to the roots of his hair. "Ino-chan didn't say it like that." Yugao grinned and asked, "So how did she say it?" He yelled as his face turned red. "She said it better. Just let me give my report." After going over the best parts, the tape was soon over. "I knew you were going home tonight, Kakaniai, so I called it a day when the sun started to go down." Ino-chan looked a little sad, but she told me that her parents were waiting for her at home, too. We stopped there, but I told her we'd play again next weekend. Kakashi looked down at his beloved younger brother, who had stopped playing with a girl so he could be there to greet him when he got home. On the one hand, he was happy and proud that his brother cared so much about him, but on the other, he wished he hadn't gone home so fast. Could Naruto have made more progress on his mission if he had taken the time to camp for the night? At sundown, the Yamanaka girl might still be red-faced, and his brother might finally figure out what's going on. Kakashi cursed himself for being so good. Yugao broke the silence just as he was coming out of his thoughts. "So, Naru-chan," she asked with a smile, "what do you plan to do with Ino-chan next weekend? Are you going to spend both days with her?" Naruto hopped over to his sister and looked up at her pleadingly. "I haven't asked Jai-chan yet, but can I? I'll do all my homework and field training," he said. When Nana spoke up, Yugao's smile got bigger. "Oh, I'm sure Hokage-sama will let it happen. He wouldn't stand in the way of young love. he said. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked with a tilt of his head. Nothing, said Mizu as she picked up Naruto and turned him away from his other sisters, who rolled their eyes at her. Don't worry about what she said. Just play at the park and have fun. You're still a child, so all you need to worry about is playing and making new friends, okay? He smiled and nodded. Yeah, I can do that. Shiki sighed and stood up with a clap. Okay, we've had our fun. It's time for bed. She patted Naruto on the back and pushed Mizu along. Naru-chan still needs to take a bath and brush his teeth. If you stay up any later, you'll be sorry in the morning. Your studies will still start at 8 o'clock sharp. As Naruto was being taken away, he pouted and said, fine. Tenzo muttered, good night, Chibai, and waved his hand. Good night, Tenzo Nai, the boy said in a sulky way. Everyone, good night. Kei laughed and said, good night, kiddo. Dream sweet dreams. Mizu gave him an angry look and told him quickly, yes, dream about puppies and candy. Yugao and Nana laughed and went with them. If you keep doing that, Mizu will kill you while you sleep. Nana told Kei back off before you push her too far. You'll protect me, right? He asked, putting his hand in hers and kissing her knuckles. Maybe, she said as she ran her fingers through his hair and gave him a wink. It depends on what you say. Oh, get a room? Yugao said as he left. Nana said, maybe later, and winked again as she followed Yugao out of the room. Now, only the men were left in the room, and they stood in a line with their arms crossed right away. In silence, they each thought about the day and its surprises, which all had to do with their little genius. They now knew more about what was going on. Before today, they all thought that Naruto would grow up to be a disciplined, efficient, strong, and dangerous shinobi that they would gladly accept into their group and have lead the next generation of Konoha to greatness. Now, though, he could be more. It seems, Kakashi said in a whisper, that our little brother has another natural talent. That seems to be the case, Kei said. It's not something we see very often, especially in someone so young and innocent. He reminds me a little of Itachi before he went crazy, but even then, Itachi relied only on his looks and never on his charisma or personality. Chibai has plenty of both. Tenzo sighed and said, I see where this is going, but shouldn't we wait until he's a bit older? Kakashi said, when I was his age, I was a ch-nin, and we're only talking about learning on paper. He won't be able to use what he learns until he's at least a ch-nin, maybe even a genin, depending on whether or not the world is at war. You're kidding, Tenzo said as he rubbed his temples. If you try to give Ika to Naruto, every woman who works with us will torture and kill you. No, not Ika, Kakashi insisted. Just some simple young adult love stories. I promise they're clean. And some on basic biology, Kei said. Along with the romance novels, he should have some basic sexual education. We don't want any confusion. Good idea, said Kakashi. We should also add some books on body language and physiological responses. The poor boy thought the girl was having a heat stroke. Kei laughed and said, that still makes me laugh. Commander Ryu cleared his throat and said, which made the three men stand up straight. We might also add some rules to his future missions with the young Yamanaka, Kakashi thought as he rubbed his chin. Nothing inappropriate, given their age and station, but subtle signs of progress. Have the boy count the number of times he made the girl smile, or measure her or his heart rate during contact, or have him learn as much as he can about her likes and dislikes. The more he knows about her, the better. Oh, that's good, Kei said with a smirk. We should give him lessons on gentlemanly behavior and vocabulary, just like we gave him lessons on the silent killing method. We should have him act like a gentleman during these missions and give him a grade based on how well he did. Yes, Kakashi muttered. These parameters will let us make these missions harder and harder as we go. Kei laughed and said, by the end, Chibai will be able to charm any woman in the world, not just the Yamanaka heiress. The commander nodded. Yes, and we'll be able to send him on any mission involving the opposite sex. The amount of information he could get for Konoha would be insurmountable. Female daimyo, wives of daimyo, princesses, and noble ladies from all over the continent. It would be a gold mine. Yes, we're doing this so that Konoha can have a good future, said Kei. That's why we're doing it. Tenzo sighed and gave up, saying, no matter what I say, I know you'll ignore me. Kakashi patted his shoulder and nodded in agreement. But let me add that we do this privately and quietly. We can watch what's going on, but we can't make a big deal out of it. We don't record anything. We want Naruto to grow up and succeed as a man, not to use him for fun. We do this, and no one else knows. Kei nodded and said, yes, just the four of us. Hokage-sama will kill us all if we don't include him, Commander Ryu said. Same with Jiraiya-sama. Kei shivered at the thought. Yes, you're right. Just the six of us. The Yamanaka heiress is his first friend, Kei whistled. I wonder who else he'll meet. What will happen when they grow up? How many girlfriends do you think he'll have? Kakashi laughed when he thought about it. As a genin on Minato-sensei's team, he often heard Jiraiya and the Yondaime talking to each other. Jiraiya tried more than once to get Minato to loosen up and have some fun. Away from prying eyes and ears, the Sannin tried to entice his student with stories of his victories around the elemental nations, which he would later turn into literary masterpieces. But the Yellow Flash never gave in. Kakashi could hardly keep track of how many women had tried to date his sensei. It must have been hundreds, or even more after he became one of the youngest Kage in history. Minato-sensei was always surrounded by girls, both inside and outside of the village. Even though Kushina-sensei was one of the strongest and most dangerous kunoichi in Konoha, he had never tried to help. She had never been jealous of her boyfriend, husband, and had only ever laughed at him. She didn't worry at all because she knew Minato-sensei better than anyone else. Namikaze Minato was loyal if he was only one thing. Minato-sensei was loyal to Konoha and Uzumaki Kushina. The Yondaime had the looks, charisma, skills, power, position, and respect to have any woman in the world. But he only wanted to marry his childhood sweetheart. Now Naruto was in the same place. Kakashi wondered if the boy would also be like his dad in this way. Yamanaka Emiko was perplexed. Her daughter had told her about how things were going with her friends at the academy. She was happy that her daughter stood up for poor Sakura-chan, but she was worried that Ino would lose almost all of her friends. After dropping her daughter off at the park, the matriarch of the Yamanaka family went on a bakery shopping spree. She was sure that sweets would make Ino feel better. But when she came back, Ino was more happy than she had ever been. Emiko and her daughter sat on the couch together and watched TV. As they watched, Emiko's daughter laughed to herself. "Ino-chan, are you feeling okay?" Ino smiled big at her mother and nodded as she looked at her. "Of course, I'm feeling great. Did you enjoy yourself at the park today?" "I did," shouted the girl. "I had the best day ever." Emiko was about to ask her next question when Yamanaka Inoichi came in, happy to see his daughter, and laughed in a manly way. The girl laughed as she sat on her father's lap and bounced around happily as he sat down on the couch again. Inoichi kissed his daughter's hair and asked, "What's got you so happy today, princess?" "I spend the whole day playing with Naruto-kun." Emiko and her husband both blinked in surprise. "Naruto-kun, did you make a new friend? And is it a boy?" Inoichi asked softly, looking scared. "Yeah, I told you about him, didn't I?" Emiko was afraid that Ino's smile would hurt because it was so big. "I met him at the park yesterday. He was looking for flowers, and I was playing in our flower fields. We hung out all day yesterday and today." She laughed again, much to Inoichi's horror. "He is so cool." Emiko smiled, even though her husband's face was pale. "That's great to hear, honey," she said, pausing to think. "How old is Naruto-kun? Is he about the same age as you?" "Yep, we're the same age." Ino was still bouncing happily on her father's lap, so she didn't see his horrified face. "In fact, I'm 17 days older than him. He was born on October 10th. I asked. That seemed to wake Inoichi up from his bad dream. "Was it 8 years ago on October 10th? Ino nodded. "Uh-huh." Emiko got it, and she made a face. "That was not a good day to be born. If he's about your age, have you met him before at the academy?" "No, Naruto-kun does not go to the academy." "Oh, he's not a soldier." Ino quickly shook her head. Her smile came back. Emiko smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. "No, Naruto-kun wants to be a ninja. He wants to be Hokage, and he already has great chakra control that is way beyond what we learn at the academy." "Really?" Inoichi asked. "Where did he learn it if not at the academy?" "He said that his family teaches him at home." The father asked, "Is he in a clan? And what's his last name?" "Uzumaki," she yelled, and her father didn't move. "His full name is Uzumaki Naruto," she said. Emiko looked at her husband and then asked, "Uzumaki, I haven't heard that name in a while. Have you met his parents?" "No, Naruto-kun's parents died during the Kyuubi attack. He lives with his grandfather and his siblings." Emiko moved closer to her husband and daughter and reached for her husband's shaking hand. "What does Naruto-kun look like?" Ino blushed and smiled shyly. "He looks very cool." She turned away from her parents and whispered, "He is so handsome. He's even cuter than Sasuke-kun and way cooler, too. He talks, smiles, and laughs, and his laugh is so cute." "That's great, honey," Emiko said, "but what does he look like? What color is his hair? What do his eyes look like?" Ino grinned and said, "He has blonde hair, too." Inoichi jumped back as Ino continued, "But it's not like ours, it's a bit darker. It's also very messy, but in a good way. It's very spiky, but it frames his face perfectly. His eyes are also blue, but darker than ours. They're like a deep blue. Inoichi gasped for air and said, so he's a boy with blonde hair and blue eyes whose last name is Uzumaki. Yes. Ino clasped her hands together and begged. He told me he would hang out with me again next weekend. Can I please go? Emiko looked at her shaking husband and held his hand. Well, of course, honey. I'm glad you made a new friend. Look at what he made me today, Ino said as she pulled up the sleeve of her sweater to show her parents her new seal. Isn't that cool? It's our clan symbol. While her husband was still confused, Emiko smiled and said, it's very nice. Did he draw it on you? No, Ka-chan. This isn't just a drawing, said Ino, shaking her head. Let me show you. She made a hand sign and shaped her chakra, then tapped the seal with her right palm. When a puff of smoke came out, both of her parents were shocked. Ino smiled at their surprise as she held a bottle of water that had been used to feed her by Naruto. Look, Naruto-kun drew this storage seal for me. Inoichi asked, what do you mean, princess? He made the seal himself. Yes, he did. Ino was giddy. Yesterday, she showed me his own storage seal on his arm, and I was amazed. He said he'd make one for me, and he did. Not only that, but he also changed how it looks. Isn't he just so sweet? She hugged her arm again. Emiko couldn't help but smile and say, what a talented boy. Yes, I know. Inoichi put Ino gently on the couch and then got up. Sorry, princess, but Tu-chan needs to go see your uncle Shikaku for a while. Ino cocked her head to the side and said, sure, okay. Honey, Emiko said as she stood up as well. Inoichi gave his wife a gentle rub on the shoulder and said, I won't be out too late. It's fine, just figure this out, she sighed. I need to know if. Inoichi nodded and said, I know. Me too. Emiko sat back down and pulled Ino close, trying to pay attention as her daughter talked about her new friend and obvious crush. She smiled and nodded, but she couldn't help but want to go with her husband. She had to know if her friend's son was still alive. And if he was, why did they keep him hidden? Kushina. Before he was made an ANBU commander, Ryu was the ANBU captain who had been in charge the longest. Some people might think it's a big deal, but the average ANBU member's career was short, ending either with death or retirement. Not everyone could live in the dark, hunt in the unknown, and die in silence. The ANBU way of life was sad and cruel, with no happiness or feelings. They all lived in minutes and seconds and had no plans for the future at all. After all, death was always there to greet them. Ryu used to have friends, and he had his own bosses and peers. In his youth, he looked up to the Sannin, admired the white fang of Konoha, and thought the Sandaime Hokage was the shinobi god, just like most of his peers. But no one from his generation was still alive. Some had left the army and gone back to civilian life. Others had joined the army and become regular CH-nin or J-nin if they hadn't gotten any permanent injuries or mental blocks. The rest died when the Kyuubi attacked, were crushed by the powerful Biju's tails, or were burned to ashes. Ryu almost quit after the Yondaime died, and he would have if there hadn't been a single ember keeping the barracks warm. Again. Hi, Commander. Chibai got out of the shallow pool, which had soaked him from head to toe, and started to gather his chakra again. As he tried to stand on the water, his brows furrowed and his frown turned into a pout. He was able to stand on the pool for a second with only a few ripples at his feet, but he soon fell again. Keep trying until you can stand up for 10 seconds. Hi, Commander. Ryu rarely left the barracks when he was commander. With eyes like a hawk, he kept an eye on every man and woman in the ANBU from the command center. Even though he was proud of them for doing their jobs to his high standards, he was usually bored. When he first became commander, it was the thing he was most afraid of. He was forced to stay in the village, where he still lived in the dark, and he didn't have any S-ranked missions he could die on if things got too hard. If that single ember hadn't grown into a bright flame, it would have been his worst nightmare. Commander, I stood still for 8 seconds. Good job. Keep going. The small spark of life that was left in the ashes after the Kyuubi attack was Chibai. She had brought the barracks back to life with ease. It was no longer dreary and dark, and it was no longer quiet and empty. Ryu could remember when he first heard that a baby lived in the barracks. His first thought was that the baby would cry, which would only make things worse, but Naruto rarely cried. The first time Ryu went to see him, the baby laughed, grabbed Ryu's finger, and laughed at his dragon mask. Ryu hadn't heard real laughter in a very long time. He was the one who cried while holding the baby, which was strange. Commander Ryu swore that day that he would live a full life for Chibai and make sure that the boy would grow up in a different world than the one that had hurt him so much. When Naruto was only a week old, the first change happened. Commander Ryu couldn't remember who said that the harsh white tube lights weren't good for a baby, but the Hokage had changed them all to soft white fluorescent bulbs within a day. The yellow color made the dark hallways feel warmer, and the golden fur on Chibai's head went well with the new look. Then, the walls inside the barracks were covered and painted for the first time since the Nidaime Hokage was in charge. Rusted steel and dull gray walls were sanded down and covered with dark brown wooden walls, which reminded everyone of the tree trunks they had all climbed as kids. The cement floors were taken up and replaced with warm hardwood floors that were lighter in color, but just as inviting. The Hokage was afraid that the boy would hurt himself if he tried to walk on the woolly, leaf-green rugs that lined the paths to and from Chibai's nursery. The baby needed natural light, so the Hokage had skylights put in the dining areas of the barracks. He also made the boy a playroom with all-around window walls so that he could be surrounded by nature. It was by far the room with the most light in the barracks. As an extra safety measure, a high-level genjutsu was put on the outside of each window so that no one could look inside while Chibai was excitedly pointing at the outside. One by one, mission scrolls turned into picture books, food pills turned into baked goods and home-cooked meals, and everyone started to report to Chibai before reporting to the commander and the Hokage when they got home. Naruto had become the ANBU's beating heart, and everyone loved him a lot because of it. 8, 9. Naruto counted as his knees were shaking. 10. His feet sank in the water, but he still had a smile on his face. Commander, I've stood on water for 10 seconds in a row. Ryu nodded, but his smile was hidden by his mask. You did a good job, Chibai. Take a break. The boy bowed to be polite, but he couldn't help but smile. Thank you, Mr. Commander. They were training as usual on Training Ground Zero, which was on the lowest level of the barracks and was hidden by chakra-lined walls and a lot of cement. It was Ryu's private training ground, but Naruto now used it too. When the boy was being trained, the rocky, dirt field came in handy. It was the safest place in Konoha and had everything the boy could need, like shallow pools to stand in and trees to run chakra through. Naruto hopped over to the commander's table and sat in his chair. He then reached for a warm cookie that one of his many sisters had given him. Your chakra control is getting better quickly, but not fast enough. Naruto finished his cookie and turned to face his teacher. At this point, your control is beyond that of a regular genin, but your chakra reserves are growing faster than you are getting better. We need to be one step ahead of your growth rate to keep making progress, so I've decided to speed up our schedule. Commander, I'll do whatever you want. My original plan was to combine your ANBU training with the teachings of the Academy. However, the Academy teachings have turned out to be too easy for you at this point. You still need to finish your book learning, but you've mastered 2 of the 3 basic jutsu required for graduation, Kawarimi and Henge. Naruto smiled and said, the Kawarimi and Henge were easy. The Bunshin no Jutsu was hard to learn, but after your chakra control exercises, I can at least make one that isn't deflated. He stood tall and asked, so, what kind of training will we do from now on? Ryu nodded. Hokage-sama and I have carefully planned your training schedule, so there won't be much change. But we have decided to teach you a B-rank jutsu. Naruto jumped out of his seat, and his eyes got very big. Really? Yes, but calm down. The boy let out a breath and sat down, putting his hands on his lap. His training was paying off. This is the Kage Bunshin on jutsu. The commander made a hand sign, and a puff of smoke appeared next to him, and a clone appeared. This is different from the usual clone jutsu, and it will be much easier for you to use. These clones have bodies and can act on their own without the original. Naruto's eyes lit up when he saw it, and he said, amazing. The Nidaime Hokage himself came up with this, and all new ANBU recruits learn it as part of their orientation training. The commander's clone also sat down, and both of them looked at Naruto. This is not a hard jutsu to learn. The only reason it is a B rank is because it requires a lot of chakra. Each clone is made by dividing the user's chakra in half, so each clone gets an equal amount of chakra. Genin and some CHnin who don't have a lot of chakra should not learn this jutsu because it can easily lead to chakra exhaustion and even death. I understand, muttered Naruto, nodding along. You, on the other hand, have the biggest supply of chakra I've ever seen. At your age, you already have more chakra than me and Hokage-sama. The boy's eyes widened, but he didn't say anything. Your reserves will keep growing faster and faster as you get older, so this jutsu won't be a problem for you. Well, how many do you think I can make right now? With this standard version of the Kage Bunshin, you can create 12 clones, all of which will have a decently sized chakra pool, and will be able to last for a decent amount of time. Of course, this variant of the jutsu is limited. The original and unhindered version of the Kage Bunshin has no limit on how many clones you can create. By the time you reach maturity, you will possibly be able to create upwards of 1,000 clones and still feel fine. 1,000, the boy whispered, thinking about what could be true. Yes, which is why I'm teaching you this jutsu. The commander and his clone both leaned forward. This technique was made not only for combat, but also for spying. The memories and experiences of each clone are sent back to the original when they are destroyed, he said as he punched his clone, turning it into a puff of smoke. Naruto's eyes got bigger as he got it. Do these experiences include things like muscle memory and what you've learned? Yes, Ryu said. Physical changes or gains can't be taken back, but any neural connections or reflexes you practice will add up. So, with clones, I can speed up my training schedule by a lot. Precisely, the commander leaned back in his chair. Training with one clone can cut the time in half. With a dozen right now, any training that would take a year will be done in 1 month. He crossed his arms. When your body reaches or is close to reaching maturity, you may be able to fit a millennium's worth of training into 1 year. Naruto fell back in his chair and looked shocked. Is this how ninjas at the top level train? Not at all, Chibai. Ryu sighed. You don't realize how much chakra you have. Compared to other kids your age, like your new friend Yamanaka-san, you have at least 1,000 times more chakra than them. No one, not even Hokage-sama, can train like this, not only because of chakra requirements, but also because of stamina requirements. Experience also leads to fatigue. Without your Uzumaki vitality and endurance, no one would be. Naruto looked down and thought about what he had heard. You have the best of both worlds, Chibai. You have almost unlimited chakra and almost unlimited stamina. There was a reason why the Uzumaki clan was so respected around the world. They were known as the clan of longevity and could fight for days at a time. The boy asked, but why do I have so much chakra? He knew he had Uzumaki blood, but why did he have so much chakra? The commander put up his hand to stop the next question. Uzumaki clan members are born with higher chakra capacities, but there are special circumstances that affect your reserves. No, I'm not allowed to tell you. This is classified information, and you don't have the right rank yet to get access to it. Naruto was surprised and said, but this is information about me. But you won't know for sure until you've earned the rank. And what kind of rank is that? Jonin or Anbu, it doesn't matter, Naruto said with a sulk. He sat back and crossed his arms. You want to be Hokage one day, Chibai, so I'm sure you won't have to wait long if you listen well and train well. Naruto stood up and saluted the commander. Hi, Commander, I will do as you say. Our main goal right now is for you to be able to control your chakra well enough. With 12 clones, I don't think this will take too long. Once you have better control, we'll start your elemental training. In the future, we'll focus on ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu, but only if your chakra control improves a lot. What do you think about fuinjutsu? That's not one of my specialties. Jiraiya-sama will keep helping you read about fuinjutsu, but I'll leave that for you to figure out on your own. You've done well so far, so I'll trust you not to go too far. Naruto nodded. Yes, sir. Good, now come here and I'll show you how to make Kage Bunshin. The Sandaime Hokage had been in charge for more than 50 years, which was longer than his 2 predecessors and his successor put together. After his beloved wife died 8 years ago, he wasn't sure if he was cursed to wander the earth, but he hoped to join her soon. He missed his good friend Biwako and the life they had together. At one point, he thought that when his naivete and optimism beat his experience, he would be able to enjoy his retirement with his wife and their grandchildren, spending the days with his bonsai trees and his students' books, drinking tea and eating treats with Biwako, and training Konohamaru to be the next Sarutobi clan head. If only life had been so nice. Not everything was bad. Most of Yondaime's advisors expected or hoped for war after he died, but it didn't happen. As a Jinchuriki, the Yondaime's legacy was safe and happy, not persecuted. And he still had time for Konohamaru, at least when the boy decided to surprise him in his office. He thought about when he should get his 2 grandsons to meet. Konohamaru would really benefit from having an older brother, and Naruto would finally be able to talk to someone younger than him. Hokage-sama, his secretary said, Yamanaka Inoichi, Nara Shikaku, and Akimichi Chusa want to talk to you. He cleared his throat and then moved his hat. Yes, you can let them in. The doors opened for the 3 clan leaders, all of whom were top-level Jonin from Konoha. Hiruzen could still picture them as kids, just out of the academy and free to play in the real world. All of them were now family men who had been through a lot. He thought, how fast time goes by. Soon, their children would take their place, and if the gods above were kind, someone else would be sitting in this damn chair and wearing this damn hat. Gentlemen, said the Hokage, lighting his pipe in a casual way. What can I do for you? Inoichi and Chusa pointed at Shikaku, and the Jonin commander sighed. Hokage-sama, some disturbing facts have recently come to light. What kind of information? The old man asked. And please, take a seat. The three men were sitting, and they all looked nervous and worried. Hiruzen sighed to himself. He knew why they were worried, but he was surprised at how fast it happened. When he let Naruto play outside, he thought he might run into some of his parents' old friends. But, according to the Anbu commander, Naruto was able to make the Yamanaka heiress his friend and fall in love with her on the first day they met. Still, he thought it would be a few more days before there was a fight. But for once, they were the ones taking the lead. The Hokage turned on the noise-blocking barrier in his office by making a hand sign under his desk. Yesterday, Hokage-sama, my daughter met a new friend in the park. Hiruzen knew that they were just testing the waters, but he didn't think it was necessary to hurry up the conversation. Great, he said. Children can finally be children. Inoichi looked at his teammates and brothers before turning back to the Hokage and saying, "That's why we're here." The boy she met was very strange. He introduced himself as Uzumaki Naruto, a family name that hasn't been used since Kushina's death. When I asked my daughter more about him, she said he was a boy with spiky blonde hair and deep blue eyes. Yes, and? The old man asked. Shikaku sighed, troublesome. He sat up straighter and looked at the old man. Is he Minato and Kushina's boy? He is, yes. Hiruzen saw Inoichi and Chusa flinch, which showed how surprised they were that their guess was right so quickly. They were easy to understand, but the Nara in the front was harder to understand. He rolled his eyes, as if he already knew what was going to happen. He had always been curious about whether or not his Jonin commander knew about Naruto. The man had never asked about it, unlike many others, and Hiruzen saw more relief and happiness in his eyes now than confusion. Chusa spoke up for the first time and asked, "He is. I've been waiting a long time to talk to you about this," said the Hokage. Inoichi took a deep breath and asked, why was he hidden away for so long? Why was he hidden away in the first place? The reasons are pretty clear, said the Hokage. They were much more important 8 years ago. Shikaku asked, Iwa or Kumo? He didn't care what his teammates thought. Both, but Iwa probably has more. Shikaku saw that the Hokage was smoking, so he lit up a cigarette and took a long, long drag. So, I was right to think that all these years, he said. Inoichi, Chusa, and Hiruzen all looked at him. Shikaku looked at the Hokage and said, he sealed it away in the only person with Uzumaki blood in their veins, his own son. The Hokage said, of course Minato didn't kill the Kyuubi. He would never destroy the balance between the villages so easily. No. And no, Inoichi muttered. You're not serious. We all knew Minato well, Shikaku said. He would do anything to keep the village safe, even if it meant turning his son into a Jinchuriki. Chusa asked the Hokage, is this why you hid him away? It's part of the reason, said Hiruzen. Inoichi pressed his white-knuckled fists against his legs. So, it must be true. It was a secret back then. But I'm sure you three knew that Kushina was the previous Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Chusa and Shikaku nodded, but Inoichi just looked at his hands. During Naruto's birth, the Kyuubi got out for reasons we don't know. We had our suspicions, but our investigations led nowhere. Kushina was dying because the Kyuubi had to be taken out of her after she gave birth. Minato had to act quickly to seal the Kyuubi away, and his newborn son was the only one who could do it. Chusa sighed and bowed his head. He had to always do the right thing, Minato. Yes, Shikaku said. And this is the main reason you hid him away. I didn't want to hide him at first, Hiruzen said with a sigh and a puff on his pipe. I was going to give him his mother's family name and have him live with us, but my stupid advisor decided to do something behind my back. The rumors, Shikaku muttered. Danzo spread the rumors about a Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The old man nodded. Yes, he did. After that, Naruto couldn't have had a normal childhood in the village. People would have hated him and maybe even attacked him. I couldn't take that chance. He sighed. I promised Kushina before she died that I would take care of Naruto, and I have. By locking him up in a prison, Inoichi asked in a dark voice. Hiruzen looked at him coolly and said, no, in the Anbu barracks, surrounded by people who love him more than anyone else. The three men looked at him in amazement. Hade Kakashi, Minato's last surviving student, practically raised Naruto himself. Anbu Commander Ryu has been looking out for the boy's well-being since the day he was born. Just yesterday, when Naruto was playing with your daughter, Inoichi, his sisters baked him a whole table of snacks and food for their playdate. So, he's happy, Inoichi asked. He's not locked away and trained as a Jinchuriki. Naruto doesn't know about the Kyuubi, but he's being trained. Ever since he was a child, he's been bugging his surrogate siblings to teach him things. I'm happy to say that Naruto is just like his parents. He's as talented as Minato and as passionate as Kushina. In a few years, I can see Naruto becoming an important part of Konoha. The Yamanaka asked, does he know about his parents? Yes, he does. Sarutobi leaned back in his chair. He was raised as Uzumaki Naruto, but his parents were never hidden from him. Not everyone in the ANBU knows, but most people close to him have made the connection. It's not explicitly known, but it's the worst kept secret in the ANBU. Chusa smiled and said, I'd like to meet him. And you can, said the Hokage. The fact that he can play at the park and spend the day with friends shows that he is now ready to go back into society. Inoichi asked, will you let him join the academy? He'll have friends. He's already met my daughter, and I'm sure Shikamaru and Choji would welcome him into the group. Shikaku and Chusa agreed, but Hiruzen shook his head. No, Naruto is way too good for the academy. He already knows the 3 basic ninjutsu, and is almost done with elemental training. Sending him to the academy will only slow him down. Shikaku smirked. He really is Minato's kid. His dream is to be Hokage, the Sandaime said with a smile. So he has the same dream as both of his parents. Inoichi asked, so what's the plan? Should Naruto train with the ANBU until he's strong enough to join the ANBU? No, Naruto doesn't have what it takes to join ANBU, even though he grew up in the barracks. He's a bright, happy, and cheerful boy who doesn't have a single bit of darkness in him. If anything, he'll do better in our regular forces, the old man said as he puffed on his pipe. I'll wait until Naruto turns 12. Then he'll become a genin and join a team. He'll learn how to work as a team, get along with his teammates, and most importantly, get some real-world experience. Then why not make him a genin now? Shikaku asked. He is obviously skilled enough. He is in an important part of his training right now, so I want him to focus on that to build a solid foundation. Also, when Naruto officially joins our ranks, I want him to take his father's name. The 3 men nodded. That would put a huge target on his back, so before then, I need to be confident in his abilities. Rest assured, I won't waste his potential. As soon as he has enough experience and has shown leadership skills, I will promote him too. Chusa asked, but we can still meet him, right? Yes, the Hokage said with a smile. Naruto and little Ino-chan are already very close. Inoichi smiled and nodded. He asked me this morning if he could play with her again next weekend, and I said yes. I don't see why Shikamaru and Choji couldn't be there, too. You 3 and your wives could pack some food and drinks and make a day of it. Inoichi nodded happily and said, thank you, Hokage-sama. We will do just that. Chusa yelled, I'll take care of the food, and we'll take good care of the boy. Shikaku shook his head with a smile and said, this is not what I was expecting this morning. But I'm looking forward to meeting the kid. Inoichi added with a smile, Ino-chan speaks very highly of him. She showed me the storage seal he made for her, and he is very talented for his age. Chusa said, oh, so he's learning Fuinjutsu. The Sandaime nodded and said, yes, Jiraiya has a long-term plan for Naruto's training in Fuinjutsu. When he gets good enough, he'll get his father's notes, and when he's done with those, he'll get his mother's. Well, it looks like our future is in good hands, Shikaku said with a smile. I was starting to worry. My son is too much like me to actually take that hat from you, Hokage-sama, and after the whole Uchiha thing with Itachi, I was afraid you wouldn't find a worthy successor. Inoichi and Chusa were surprised, but all Hiruzen did was nod. Yes, but we still don't know if it's a real possibility. We'll know for sure in a few years. Shikaku stood up, and his brothers did the same. They all bowed to their leader. Thank you, Hokage-sama, for your time and for being honest. Inoichi said, yes, Hokage-sama, thank you. My wife and I will sleep better knowing that the boy is safe and being cared for. Chusa laughed and said, Hokage-sama, you should come hang out with us next weekend. I'll have enough food for an army. The Hokage laughed and said, we'll see, Chusa. And you're all welcome. I've been keeping this a secret for too long, and I'm glad to finally tell the truth. I'm sure Minato and Kushina are looking down on us now and are very happy that their old friends are looking after their son. Inoichi nodded and said, we will take good care of him, Hokage-sama. I promise. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. There were 12 puffs of smoke next to Naruto, and each one revealed a clone. Each one was an exact copy of the original, with no flaws or obvious differences. This was very different from his early attempts to use the basic clone jutsu. If anything, this version of the clone jutsu was easier for Naruto to use than the regular one. It required much less control over chakra. If it was hard, it was because it took a lot of chakra, but Naruto could barely feel it. Naruto smiled at his clones, and they all smiled back. This is so cool, Naruto said. Commander Ryu stood with his arms crossed in front of the small army of Chibai and said, like I said, it's not hard to learn this jutsu. You still took too much time to make only 12 clones, but we'll work on that as we go along. The real Naruto asked his clones, who were all grinning and bouncing, "What's next, Commander?" Now to separate, he said to the clones, "You 7 on the left will keep practicing water walking. Don't stop until you can stand on water for more than 30 seconds. Once you've done that, you can work on running on water. We'll keep doing this every day until you can fight well on water." The 7 clones nodded and said, "Dismissed." "Hi, Commander. You 5 remaining clones, go to the Anbu library. There, choose a book from your required reading list. Read until you're too tired to concentrate or out of chakra. Do not leave until further notice." "Dismissed." "Hi, Commander." As the clones ran away, Ryu turned to the real one. "When you get used to this training method, we can make more clones. For now, though, the results don't matter. What matters is helping your body and mind adapt to the increased stress of this training method. You will feel tired, much more tired than usual, but I'm sure you can handle it because you're an Uzumaki. The mental stress you will feel is probably our biggest problem." Naruto nodded. "I understand." "Good. What should I do, Commander?" asked the real one. "I guess I should work on water walking with the clones." "No," said Ryu. "When your clones train like this, all you have to do is train your body." Naruto nodded to show that he understood. "If my memory serves me right, Jiraiya-sama told you to read about resistant seals." "Yes, it was a while ago." "Have you figured out how to do it?" "Yes, I've already made a few of them." "We will start using them," the commander told the others. "We'll need a variety of them with different levels of resistance. We'll put seals on your shoulders, upper and lower arms, chest and abdomen, and all of the major muscles in your legs. I'll let you decide how much resistance goes on each seal, and I'll trust you to adjust any future increases. This will be your personal project." "Is this in preparation for Taijutsu training?" asked the boy. "Yes, at least get your body ready for the kind of Taijutsu training we're going to do," I said. "Understood." The commander nodded. Naruto saluted and said, "Yes, sir." "Should I go prepare the seals now?" "No, we'll start with those tomorrow," Ryu said as he joined Naruto in sitting down. "I have something special for you to do today," the man said. The boy looked excited but didn't say anything. "I'm impressed with how far you've come with social interactions. Your recent mission to make friends with the Yamanaka heiress was a huge success, and I want you to learn more about that area." Naruto moved closer and asked, "How so?" "Kakashi Tenzo K. and I talked about this last night after watching your mission tapes," Naruto said. "We all agree that your exploration of similar social interactions will become just as important as other parts of your training. Kakashi will talk to you more about this later, but today I am giving you a new mission." "Does it involve Ino-chan?" he asked as he jumped up from his chair and smiled brightly. "Yes, it does." "Yes," the boy yelled, losing his cool. It had been hard for him to be away from his friend for 2.5 days. Monday and Tuesday were like any other day, but after meeting Ino, everything seemed to be missing something. She was so lively and fun that anything that didn't involve her seemed dull and boring. A mission that involved Ino-chan was 2 of Naruto's favorite things, so he couldn't have been happier. "Chibai, attention. Hi, Commander. Your mission today is to surprise your new friend at the academy. It's almost the end of the school day, so the students should be leaving soon. I want you to find Yamanaka Ino and spend the rest of the day with her. This is an infiltration mission with a reconnaissance component. You will find the target at the academy without being seen by anyone but her. Lead her away from the academy and try to spend the rest of the day with her." Naruto nodded and said, "Understood, Commander." Ryu cleared his throat and said, "You have one side objective. I want you to keep track of how many times you make her smile." "Make her smile." "Yes, understood." "Yes, Mr. Commander." "Good," nodded the commander. "Dismissed." At the foot of Hokage Mountain is where the Ninja Academy is. The old Hokage's stone faces look down on the new Hokage, watching over them like guardians for all time. The Sandaime had told Naruto that story before. Then, Naruto had read that the Nidaime Hokage had built the academy before the mountain had the Shot Eye's face on it. But Naruto was getting off topic. In this case, the truth didn't matter as long as the students felt safe with the Hokage around. But it was a very long way from the Anbu barracks, much further than the park. Naruto had never been so far away from the village before, but he felt confident and excited. Naruto didn't wear his godfather's new jacket for this mission because he needed to move around more. He still wore his usual short-sleeved, dark gray fishnet shirt with his black Anbu utility pants and boots. He wore a simple dark blue jacket with a high collar so he would look more like the rest of the people. It did a good job of covering his seals, and the sleeves were stretchy enough that he could pull them up if he needed to. Naruto got to the Hokage Mountain quickly by going from rooftop to rooftop, and he soon found the big building under it. From a high water tower, he looked down and saw a sign that said Ninja Academy. If that wasn't clear enough, the fact that so many students were leaving the building should have been. It's 2:55 p.m. 5 minutes until the end of the school day, Naruto said into his personal log recorder as he hunched over. Target facility is busier than expected, but since I'm about the same size and age as the people inside, it should be easy to get in. Sliding down the building, Naruto slipped into the shadows. He whispered, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," and a copy of himself showed up next to him. Wordlessly, the clone sped off, fully aware of the plan Naruto had thought up. Silently and seamlessly, the clone merged into the crowd, stepping behind shadows, matching their footsteps, and walked in front of distracted faces. He vanished in the crowd, an Anbu assassin in the daylight. Before long, he had sped into the academy building, speeding from one corner to the other, slipping into shadows against the light, and only stopped when he sensed her. It was the same signature, purple, soft and delicate, like a swaying flower in the wind. It was Ino-chan. She was in a classroom, still quietly listening to the final instructions of her teacher. Jumping to the ceiling, he silently crawled to the doorway. Peering through the small window on the closed door, he saw her immediately, the lone blonde in the class, her hair bright and vibrant. He felt his heart pound against his chest. It had been 2.5 days since he last saw her, and he had missed her much. His rationality returned as he shook his head. He noted that Ino sat near the back of the classroom and was the closest person to one of the windows by the side. Only one other person sat closer to her, another girl with bright pink hair. She was relatively alone. It was the perfect position. Forming a hand sign, he made another clone and immediately dispersed it, sending his memories back to his original. Outside, the real Naruto smiled. Target is located on the second floor of the academy, in a classroom by the easternmost wall. There is window access near the back and the target is the immediate person. A single distraction by the door of the classroom should draw all attention away, and leave a wide enough opening for extraction. Forming another clone and destroying it, the original sent his plan to the clone. The clone smirked before attaching a seal to the door. It was a sound tag, or that was what Naruto named it. It was one of his first original seals, capable of recording a sound and relaying it back, volume adjustable. He had originally designed this seal to use against Toru Nyai, who would snore loudly in the cafeteria. But the Akamichi Anbu had since changed his habits and Naruto's invention lay unused, until today. Immediately, the wall vibrating loudness of snoring echoed through the hallway. The door was shaking against its hinges, and the clone wondered if he set the volume too high. With a shrug, he dispersed himself. In that instant, the original Naruto was already by the eastern wall, and stood by the window outside, attached to the outer wall by chakra. He chuckled when he heard Toru Nyai's snoring, and when looked inside, he saw the backs of every head as they all looked over at the loud, vibrating door. With a grin, he pressed his hand against the window glass with chakra and slid it open, the snoring immediately becoming louder. Jumping inside, he realized he was right beside Ino. They were close, almost as close as they were on that bench. Her chakra filled his senses, and it was like beholding a beautiful bouquet of flowers, purple and golden. He blushed and his fingers tingled coldly, but he nudged her shoulder. She jumped and turned around. She gasped loudly, but only he heard her over the loud snoring. He winked at her, trying to control the flush he knew was on his cheeks. He pressed a finger to her lips, smiling at her bright and widened eyes. He leaned close to her, shivering as his lips nearly touched her ear. "Be quiet, Ino-chan, and come with me, okay?" She blushed to the roots of her hair, which made her look unbearably cute. He wanted to leave with her immediately, but he had to wait for her answer, staring into her pretty eyes as he did. It felt like a long time, but it was fine. He didn't want to look away anyway. But then she broke her eyes away, breaking his focus, and nodded quickly. Taking that as his quell, he grabbed her hand. With everyone, even the pink-haired girl next to Ino, still watching and slowly approaching the snoring door, he pulled Ino into his arms. He knew she couldn't walk on walls yet, and could never endanger his best friend. He lifted her up and scooped his arm under her legs, smiling as held her close. He had seen this before in a movie he watched with his sisters. It was called a bridal carry, and it was most efficient. Weight distribution was even and he had a sufficient hold on her, enough for him to safely extract his target. "Hold on tight," he whispered. Her eyes widened and her arms tightened around his neck as he jumped out the window, running up the side of the building, heading for the roof. Ino cried out in shock, which almost made him panic, but he was very close to the roof. Luckily for him, Ino's cries were muffled by the strong wind at that height, and before long, he landed on the barren roof. Planting his feet firmly on the ground, he grinned at Ino. "Hey, don't worry. You're really light, so I can carry you easily for a long time. I won't let anything happen to you." A fundamental rule of the ANBU: protect your client or target at all costs. But I'm sorry I scared you. And Naruto-kun, she asked, still reeling from the last 10 seconds of her life. Do you want to spend today with me? He was still holding her in his arms, but she was so light compared to his usual training weights, he almost didn't notice. She was also very warm and it felt nice to hold her in the cold wind. My sensei let me go early and I missed you. She looked like a tomato again. Naruto would have smacked himself had he not been carrying Ino. They were standing on the roof under the afternoon sun. Of course she would be burning up again. He wondered how he could unseal a bottle of water with Ino in his arms. He could set her down, but he really didn't want to. As sure, she answered, breaking him from his thoughts as she looked up at him timidly. I'd love to hang out with you. Great, na Naruto-kun, she called out, her voice against the wind. I missed you, too. He felt his heart tremble and his knees quiver. She smiled up at him. Number of smiles, 1.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.